I'm happy to have you. We're in San Jose, California. I got Mark Smith from JBS Training Group here. Mark, welcome to San Jose. I mean, I saw you last week, but welcome to San Jose. Welcome to the Ironsides Podcast Studio. Always good to have you, man. Always good to hang out.
Yeah, I've never been in here. This is new. This feels significantly more professional than our other run-ins. You know.
Yeah, I've usually got you on the back deck of somewhere, like with bugs flying around,
yeah.
and
there's a random basement of an Airbnb.
Yeah. I think we've done that once. Yeah, you've been on a couple times, and this is like officially we're in the studio. So
perfect.
Yeah, you're out here, been teaching some courses, some classes. What are you doing out here, dude?
We got here. So today, what is today? Today's Friday. I got here not yesterday, but the last Thursday. Brought the wife and kids out, and been we did a lot of stuff. We did a lot of just jumping around San Francisco. We did a lot of jumping around Highway 1. Down the coast. Went down to Santa Cruz. Went out on a boat. We did a bunch of stuff, and then Tuesday started. Class number 1, I had a bunch of stuff back to back up in here. So class number 1 was Tuesday, Wednesday. Class number 2 was yesterday and today. Then I guess you could say I'm off tomorrow. So I ain't got nothing to do tomorrow except for just change locations. And Sunday, nothing to do. And we'll start back up on Monday with San Francisco guys out the airport.
So you're out here teaching, and then you're out here next week for a few more days.
Yeah, 4 days. Jake at In Extremis is actually flying in Sunday. I'll pick him up, and then he's gonna help me Monday through Thursday. Because I've always thought like I get this huge benefit to be in front of these dudes quite a few times a year, and I don't, it's not lost on me. I don't know all there is to know about this stuff. You know what I mean? So like, let me bring in some dude that they might not ever hear of otherwise, and let them get some exposure to some other way of thinking about some different stuff. And so I try to bring dudes with me when I can to give people a whole overall look of like how this looks if it's not just me. You know what I mean? Like what else do people have to offer in this world? So Jake will be flying in. He'll be doing his thing for a day or so, and then helping me otherwise for the rest of the time. And then I think he's leaving sometime short after that. I don't know.
It's very humble of you, because I don't see that happening a lot. I mean, I know there's a lot of guys out there that do work with other guys, but just having him out to share the wealth, and you got an opportunity to put him and your the people that are attending your course in front of somebody else. I think it's really cool. I mean, I think it benefits everybody. Certainly benefits the instructors a lot. Anybody ever do that for you, like in your past, or is this kind of novel?
I mean, not that I can think. I mean, I've certainly taught collaborative efforts with people, but no, not that I can recall. I don't guess. But dude, like, what's the goal, right? Like the goal is for good dudes to win. Like that's all I care about. It's all I've ever cared about. So, like, are we trying to get them over on this side? And if so, why would we not expose them to how much there is if we have an opportunity to? You know what I mean? So, like, the idea with bringing Jake is not to give him a benefit where he knows some people and he can make some courses happen later or nothing. I'm sure that'll happen organically anyway. But it's more or less to say like, hey man, like here's what you've been told, here's what you've been taught, here's what you've always known. Mm-hmm. Look at how much more there is. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I can't speak to the movement side of the house like he can. I mean, I certainly can talk about it and can do it and can demo it and can work dudes through why we're doing what we're doing and whatnot. But like he's the doctor, bro. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like I can't do that.
I think it's fun for everybody. I think I've started to see some shifts there. Some of the I think. When I think about you, you're kind of like, if you have JBS and you're hosting a course, you get Mark, and you get Mark every time, right? But there are other companies out there that don't necessarily operate like that. Bugs flying around in here. They don't necessarily operate that, and you're getting part of the instructor group, which is great. Like, because for the same reasons, you're getting the exposure to these different folks with different backgrounds and different styles of teaching and learning and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I think like more than ever, I'm starting to see instructors really talk about the stuff that they're doing. And I think it's coming, like what I'm listening to is more from like how they're teaching it. It's not a debate around like what what should you do with the trigger? What should you do with the grip? What should you do from, I think like mechanically, it's more about like, how do we deliver this information and do a better job doing it? That's a cool conversation for me to listen to, just from coming from a coaching background.
It's a super heavy lift, in my opinion, to like take a dude that has been filled with all of this stuff that you may or may not agree with, right? And then also recognize like you don't know what he's got in his brain, right? And then you got 2 days to try to show him the light, and like that's not the easiest thing in the world, man, for me, right? Because like the conversations that end up kind of happening from the class are conversations about things that are way deeper than how to pull the trigger or how to hold a gun, right? It's the application of these things and the methodology behind. Like we talk about practical shooting. What is practical? Why is it practical? Why is it not, and then why is this other stuff kind of niche or ostracized over here, right? Where it's not a practical application. It's not a normal application, not a probable application. And I guess more than anything, man, I just want dudes to think about what they're doing, right? And instead of doing what they're told to do, like, does this make sense to you? Have you ever even thought about what you're, like, why are you even here, right? And does this make sense for what you're trying to do, or have you just been told this is the way it is by someone on the pedestal of authority, and you never challenged it because you didn't have the gumption to, because you were humble and recognized you didn't know anything, so you never pushed back against it, and then you just kind of keep perpetuating that information, and next thing you know, like, that's just the way we do it, right? Most dangerous words ever uttered, right? That's how we've always done it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just want to inspire people to think about this a little deeper than just results on target and winning matches,
I think I do know. I think there's some level of wanting some independent thinking coming from your student, right? Like you need that. They have to have that in order to progress, because to your point, like, they're going to be in front of you for 2 days, and then what happens? Right. And I think I actually talked to you the last time we sat down here. We were talking about like being in front of a group of people that you see maybe every other year, maybe it's even the same time every year. There's a class, there's the usual suspects that show up. Some guys are doing work, most guys aren't. And they're in the same spot they were a year ago, yet they're paying to come to class, taking time out of work, or taking time and money out of an agency budget or something like that to be here. And they've really done nothing, hoping that they're going to show up maybe and get like the magic sauce. So they're going to pick up that one thing that they didn't get next time or last time, and that's just going to make it all better.
I think that there's a thing that, and I don't know the science of this, right, or the psychology of it, but there's a thing within human beings that for certain things, being associated is enough for them to fill that void of them, wanting to do better. So like you run a gym, right? Like, how many people come in here and they'll have a membership, but you never see them.
So right? This is actually a really good talk.
and so it's like why do they have a membership? I think it makes them feel better. It makes them feel like they're not just sitting around doing nothing, right? And I think a lot of people that go to trainings are like that. They go because they don't want to feel like they're just sitting around doing nothing. But really, when the training's over, they're sitting around doing nothing until the next one.
Yeah. There's an emotional fulfillment and so, bringing the gym side of it into it. Like, I know I need to work out. Like, I know I need to train, right? I know this is important. Here's my reasons why. There's some, maybe some overarching, everybody can kind of agree. These are like on the workout side, like, yes, I should be stronger. I should stay fit. I should stay healthy. Looking good's a cool thing too. So I look good naked, those kind of things. I think everybody can kind of agree on those things, right? Mm-hmm. But deeper down, like, why am I here and what am I really trying to get accomplished? That why, and it might sound a little cliched, isn't really well developed. However, there's this huge emotional response there's a couple things that come from this. I'm paying for a trainer, I'm paying for a gym membership, or I'm paying for a coach, I'm paying for a class or a course, whatever. I show up, it's transactional. Because I have done this, I have received this, and I can say the next thing, like, I do work out. I did work out, right? I got sweaty, right? Yeah. So I did the work, kind of thing. And maybe you did a little bit of work there, but the reality of it is there's more of an emotional satisfaction there than there is any kind of progress or connection to it moving further. So it's hard for a gym owner because you're constantly like trying to tease out that why and get them to like, and encourage them, or maybe try and help get them motivated or whatever. Or I think a lot of it is leading them down the path of showing them the things that really do matter. It's tough to do that in 2 days, man. It's tough to do that in 2 days.
Well, and I think too, we have to be reasonable on both sides of the house, right? On the coach side and on the student side. Like, I think it's unreasonable to expect most people to be involved in fitness at the level that Scott Howell is. Like, that's just not normal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally get it. Yeah.
I think it's unreasonable for me to expect people to be able to shoot like I do when they have a 9-to-5 job, you know, kids, things to do on the week. Like, that's not lost on me that like you ain't got the same life as me, man. Right? I get it, right? But then in the same breath, though, you should come to class with reasonable expectations, right? And understand that like there is no amount of words I will say that will do this for you, right? Like I can draw you the blueprint, man, but I can't build a house, right? Like you got to build the house, and how nice that house is directly related to how much money you want to spend. You know what I mean? So how much effort you want to put in.
Right.
You know what I mean?
What's the investment?
And you know, and I think sometimes there's an underlying tone, especially in social media, where if you're not like dry firing 3 times every day of your life, you just suck. You're a loser, garbage human being, right? Yep. And it's like, dude, I don't buy into that, right? Like I tell these coppers all the time, like it's unreasonable for me to expect you to be able to do what I do because you don't do what I do, right? I'm like a C-class handcuffer. You know what I mean? Like I'm probably D-class when it comes to like case law. You know what I mean? So like they got a lot of stuff going on. They got to stay pretty tuned up on. I don't. You know, and so I think on the coach side of the house, like reasonable expectations on what you think a student should be doing is a conversation that needs to be had, right? Instead of like berating people that don't do what you do, right? And then on the student side of the house, recognizing that like to quote Mike Pannone, right? The magic is there ain't no magic. You know what I mean? Like it's directly related to how much you want to put into it. There's no amount, and I always kind of analogize it with like jujitsu, right? So a lot of people have experience in jujitsu that have experience in shooting, right? And so especially the coppers. And so, hey man, what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go to all the seminars. And I'm gonna watch all the YouTube videos. And I'm gonna be a black belt, yeah, right? And they're like, no, right? So, and that's just not the way it works. But for some reason, the way the marketing is structured, maybe, or whatever in this shooting industry, there's this underlying, like people don't come out and like blatantly say it, but I feel it, right? Like there's this belief that if only I had the right gear, the right class, the right words spoken to me, or somebody put their hands on me and put my hands on this gun the right way, all my problems will go away, right? And it's like that's just not real, man. It's not a real thing.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, let's step it back for just a second. Like you talking about training cops.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that? Like very consistently?
Very consistently. I'd say maybe 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's been about 2 years.
Yeah.
And so talk to me about how you kind of entered into that. How did that start?
Dude.
Because I don't know this. I don't know the answer to this.
So I think a lot of people think that JBS Training Group is far more professional than it actually is, right? Like the answer to that is I'm sure I don't know. Like I don't know how this stuff happens, right? But I think that if I could like pinpoint something, I would say I hold open enrollment courses. Certain cops from certain agencies will sign up and show up for those open enrollment courses. They enjoy the product. They like what they get kind of thing. They call back later and they want to do a closed course or a contract or something like that. And then, you know, like who do cops love hanging out with more than anybody else, dude? Freaking cops, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like they talk and word kind of travels. And I think what happens, especially for a dude like me, this is what it feels like. I'm not like them, right? So I'm not a badge wearing dude. I'm not a military dude. I'm just a normal dude. And so I think a lot of agencies or people that hold the power to bring me in for those agencies are reluctant to do so because they haven't heard of anybody else doing it. And I think what happens is once you kind of get your foot in the door and there's a larger or maybe a more respected agency in the area that brings you in, it almost seems like it gives everybody else permission, right?
Yeah,
like they're like, okay, this dude's cool, we can do it. You know what I mean? So I think that getting in with like some of the larger metropolitan areas across the country, you know, and things like that have branched out into the smaller county agencies, you know, and things like that, where they realize, okay, this is okay to do. We're not being dumb by doing this, you know. But that's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, because I've heard other cops say this is like agencies copy what the other agencies are doing. They whether it's you screwed up and and you had to fix a problem, so we're fixing our problem, our potential problem too, or that looks like you guys are doing a really good job. We're just going to do the same thing,
dude. What I see is the
double-edged sword. By the way.
For sure. Yeah. So from the point of perspective of like just the gear and the ideas, or you might call it mindset, right? The way that waterfall goes is dam neck feeds down to the federal level. The federal level feeds down to the state level. The state level feeds down to the local level, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of these local coppers, they've got guns that are set up like something they saw on a Navy SEAL YouTube video. They're not sure why. They just have it like that, right? Because like that's the trend. That's how it works out, right? So if this local agency, they're not interested in you, they ain't got nothing for you, right? Not interested whatsoever. If they find out you're teaching at a state agency or a federal agency, they're like, oh, never mind. We're cool with that, right? And so that. You know, and I think that's just human nature, right? It is what it is. It's not an institutional thing that's significant to cops. I think a lot of industries have something similar to that, 100%. Right? But I think a lot of these agencies have just kind of garnered permission by just paying attention and seeing that, you know, other people are okay with this. You know? So
I'm wondering, like with that, because 2 years is a while, but at the same time, it's not that long.
Yeah, it don't feel that long.
That's what I was just gonna say. So it's not that long. So I'm wondering, like, what are the bigger, this is a little bit of a cliche, like kind of softball question that I think most people would expect me to ask, but not at the same time. And that is like, what are the biggest things that you've learned, say, in the last 2 years, like from where you started to where you are now, in terms of working with cops in general? Like, I know it's a really broad question, but I know that learning curve can be very sharp, and I'm curious to hear what your answer is.
So I don't know if you'll cut this out or not, but the first thing is you should hide your money from the federal government. Right? So there's that. The next thing is that there's a lot of people in this particular institution, that is the law enforcement institution. And I find this to be true almost kind of regardless of tier, right? It's kind of a thing that permeates throughout the entire ideology of it. There's very, very few opportunities that are given to people to, like, permission to think critically, right? Like, very few opportunities for permission to ask questions, right? Or to challenge. That's a big one, right? To challenge this idea. So a lot of these guys are very reluctant. It's weird, man. I don't know how to explain it. Like, you can feel it in the air sometimes. They're very, like, they're nodding and smiling, right? And they're laughing at the jokes and stuff, but they're very reluctant to buy into this because it's so significantly different than anything they've ever heard before. And I think they know that if they buy into it, they are now the anomaly. They're the the scarlet letter. They're the one that ain't like everybody else, right? And I think people, above all things, the inner calling of our being is to belong. Right? Like, we want to belong to something. You know what I mean? And I think that there's a lot that kind of goes into why a dude is like that. But I think the large majority of it is they're worried about what everybody else that they're going to work with every day is going to think about them getting into this. You know what I mean? Like, because there's a lot of people that really do believe, dude, that the stuff I teach will get you killed in the streets. You know what I mean? They really do believe that. And they can't have an intelligent conversation about it, but they hold fast to these ideas that they've been taught that have quote unquote worked, right, for 30, 40 years, you know, and that's, you know, again, that's the biggest thing that I run into is what we do works. And it's like, well, does what you do work, or has what you do been successful, right? Because there's a difference between, like, it's possible to do a thing in life and win, but not be successful, right? And so I'm not saying that what you do don't work, man. I'm saying that, have you ever thought about the conversation about what might work better? Right? Because there's a lot of things that work, right? Riding a bicycle to work works, you know what I'm saying? But a car's pretty cool, you know what I'm saying? And so it's trying to kind of, with kid gloves, help them understand I'm not interested in a debate or an argument or telling you what to do, man. I'm interested in giving you this opportunity that we have for the next 16 to 20 hours, right? Whatever it is, or 3 days, 4 days, whatever. to really just kind of question and think deeper than me telling you what to do, right? Like let's like, do you know what you're doing? You know, and have you ever even thought about it? And I think the large majority answer is not really.
No, because they're just trying not to mess it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, again, I have a tick list of things I know I need to get done. And then there's all these other things that could be bad and that I could get called out on if I don't do them perfect.
So I had a gig with a team. I'll leave them unnamed. It doesn't matter. Set up a little course of fire, right? And one of the target arrays had a no shoot. It was like a partial no shoot as a white target on top of a brown target, you know, and they were tuning up everything except for that one. And this target, I mean, this was with rifle, and this target was like, it was inside of 7 yards. It was like a 5-yard target, right? And you know, full disclosure, I set it up as kind of a booby trap, right? I wanted them to come in off of some hot, heavy, fast stuff and into that one and make a mistake, right? Because they disrespect it and sort of thing. And this dude, he would transition over and the rifle would just sit there for like 7 seconds, you know, literally.
An eternity.
And then it would go off. And then he would hold it some more. And then it would go off. And I was like, hey, man, so you're burning all this other stuff up. What's going on over here? You know? And he's like, well, if we hit a hostage target, we got to run a mile. And I was like,
got it.
So, okay. First thing, man, it ain't a hostage. It's a damn penalty target, right? Everything's fine, right? Number two, that's the dumbest thing in the world. Whose rule is that, right? And he's like, TL down there. And I'm like, all right, so hey, come on over here, right? And so we had a conversation about it. I'm like, man, in a scenario-based thing, or like you're in the house or something like that, sure, right? But like, how do you ever expect these dudes to get to a point where they're truly exploring what's possible and getting better at it when you're giving them consequences for failing at trying to be better?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is super weird idea to me, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of places are like that, you know?
I think a lot of people do that to themselves too, though, man. I think they're hard on themselves
100%.
Outside of the institution, right? Like, they're not giving themselves permission to fail. Talk about, I think I've talked about that with you before, and there's a self-esteem or self-worth thing attached to it. And those are two different things, but they kind of coincide. Can't remember where I was having that conversation about esteem versus worth. Oh, I know who it was. This guy, John Constantine, who just retired from the U.S. Secret Service. I just had him on the other day. I'm not sure when that episode will be out, but we talked about that. And where are you putting value on yourself versus where are other people putting value on you? And how do you rate those two things? How do you balance those two things? And again, that not giving permission to yourself to fail. And again, people can look at that, oh, that's just corny. But okay, so when you're talking about like your relationships and your conversations and, you know, the things that you go through in life, you say whatever you want. We're talking about shooting in this context, right? Like giving yourself permission to fail, which means if you are actually making an effort, that is going to happen. And walking away from that, so going back to the run a mile for hitting a no shoot, there has to be a consequence in a certain context, right? For failing. But at the same time, like in a training environment, right, where you are looking to explore the ends or the right and left gutters of what, or parameters of whatever this is, if you are not doing that, you have lost all opportunity to potentially excel and grow and learn.
Well, we have to have a conversation that's an intelligent conversation about understanding the difference between training and performing.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's dramatically different. Right. And I tell these all the time, man, like for the next couple of days, however long I'm with them, right, I'm going to miss a lot. Right. And I can honestly, with a full heart, man, testify that that doesn't bother me at all, because I know it's not representative of what I can do. It's an indicator of what I'm trying to do. You know what I mean? And so if all we ever do is go out and do all the things that we already know we can do, then all we're doing is proving to ourselves we can still do what we already knew we could do, right? So imagine a world where we try to teach a child to ride a bicycle, and when they fall off, we give them a spanking.
They're never getting on that bicycle again.
That makes no sense, dude.
They're not going to want to ride that bike.
But damn if that ain't how we do it in the training industry, right? Where we try to act like everything's a scenario, everything's an engagement, right? And everything matters. And like there's little bullets that have little lawyers on top of them, and they ride over and they sue you, you know, and things like that. And your children are in the street, and, you know, people are dying and you killed them, you know, and it's just like, dude, this is this poison to try to make somebody understand what's out there. Like they're scared to death.
Yeah. So keeping that in mind, that they're scared to death, and you talked about training versus performing. Let's talk about this. Just again, this topic's never going to go away. I think it's a good topic to discuss, but at the same time, a little bit bored with it because I still think, because what I think is people still have a major disconnect between the two. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about training and performance and training and competition, competition being where you go to perform. So Correct. Is competition training, performance, or is it both? And how do you differentiate the two things?
So I'm a hick from a one red light town in Appalachia, right? This is not going to be as heavy of a lift.
That's what I love about you, man.
Like, so this is super easy to me, right? So you go to a match, okay? However many stages there's going to be between 5 and 10, right? Depending on wherever you go, right? You're going to take a notebook, take your phone notes, whatever you want to do. You're going to number 1 through whatever the stage, 1 through 8, right? Or whatever. For each individual stage, you're going to perform, right? And so we have to identify, and we have to take words and try to make visualizations for people of what is performance, right? So performance is, I like to use rate of perceived exertion, yep. right? So, or the people that are into you for the muscles and biceps and stuff might have heard of reps in reserve. It's the same similar idea, right?
Similar.
So a rate of perceived exertion on a scale of 10. 10 is your maximum output. That's like everybody knows when they're trying as hard as they can try, right? That is not a good place to perform, right? So if you're performing at a 10, it's a very volatile place, right? There's a lot of failures that come up. There's things that happen that you don't have the opportunity to correct on the fly. There's
overcompensate.
There's a lot of issues that come with that. So I never want to perform at a 10. I typically want to perform at about an 8 every now and then, depending on the strategy, at maybe a 9, right? Mm-hmm. So I get done with stage 1. I'm going to look at this from the perspective of I want to protect the self-image, right? And I want to get a training homework kind of program, right? So I'm not going to do what a lot of people do, which is immediately just crap all over myself and talk about how terrible it is. People have this weird thing where they want to be the first one to say that they suck. Mm-hmm. Right. So like they'll race out of the gate and be like, oh, I dicked that all up, and they'll start talking about all the things that they didn't want to do. Right. The first thing I always try to notify myself of is like, how much of this went right? Right. Like which parts went pretty great. Right. Like let's look at what went great first. So for each individual stage, I'm going to write down something that went great, dude. And I can do a turn and draw El Pres and miss every freaking target. And I'm going to write down about how awesome that turn and draw was. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So like find something that's good. Like let's start the conversation like that. Then you're going to identify okay or needs work performance. So okay performance is assessed as an unscored error. So you shot at a piece of steel, you missed it, but you knew you missed it, so you made it up immediately, right? It's okay. It's not ideal, but it's okay, right? Needs work is going to be a scored error. You blew past a target, you shot a no-shoot, something that went against the score, right? So you're going to assess that with those two ideas in mind. What you do is you write down immediately what is the solution to that, right? Like what should you have done that you didn't do, or what shouldn't you have done that you did do, right? And so then you go to the next stage and you keep doing this. And by the end of the day, if you have a needs work or an okay note that repeats itself, you now have a training plan, right? Like now we've identified a pattern that you have. Right. And so you set up courses of fire that exploit that idea. Right. And you try to work through changing that pattern behavior. And I think.
Are you doing that at a 10?
So
going back to RPE or.
So there's the way that I like to do this is if I'm in I'm on a flat range, I'm just doing some training kind of thing. I will proof a concept or kind of experience a concept at about a 6. Okay. Right. Mm-hmm. So I want to do this at a pace where I would assess the performance to be 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 perfect reps. I can do this over and over and over again. Like, do you know what it feels like to do it right?
Yep.
Right. So we got to look at that first. If you've never felt what it feels like to do it right, or you've never seen what it looks like to do it right, we got to see that first. Right. So now you know what you're looking for. Now you know what you're trying to do. Right. Then the rest of the time that I'm there, I'm going to be at a 10. And so at the 10, the way that I assess that is about 50% success, right? So half the time I'm doing okay, half the time I'm missing, right? As I'm in that 10, I'm looking for 11, right? I'm trying to bump that number up, man. Because in my mind, it just makes sense. If you can take your max effort and make it even better, by default, the 6 that we proofed it at is going to bump up a little bit with it, right? And so it's going to kind of follow suit. And then I will finish with execution mode at around an 8 or a 9, right?
Which is competition mode.
Yeah, it's how you would want to perform. Yeah. And this is and I think, again, man, a lot of people, they have this weird idea that they're going to hear the right thing or buy the right pistol or something, and all of a sudden everything they do is just going to be wonderful. And it's like, dude, this is a path that this has no ceiling, right? There's no ceiling for this. This idea continues until one day your body betrays you or until you die. Like, there is no end point for this, which is what makes it so fascinating, right?
Yeah,
which is like,
I've heard you say this before. Yep.
Like, I know how to do it perfect, but I dick it up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm chasing this end result of perfection that I consciously know is not ever going to happen. You know what I mean? And that's what, honestly, that's my pay value. Is like that. That's why I do it. It's just, it's just fascinating to me. I love it.
Couple takeaways there. Just relating is the dumb gym guy. And rate of perceived exertion, reps in reserve.
Yeah.
The scale of 1 to 10, whatever scale you're using there, because I think it's super relevant. And I think a lot of people can relate to it at the same time. Because if you work out, you know, like, hey, there's a max effort day, whatever that is, right? And then you know what your 1 rep max is, your 3 rep max is, or whatever. And so we're talking about level 10 for whatever that the call is. The only way for you to know what your level 8 is, well, the only way for you to know what your level 11 is to get to your level 10. So you have to go there. If you're working in reps in reserve and you're like, I'm working to a 2 reps in reserve effort level on this particular exercise or on this particular, in this case, we're talking about shooting, but I'm going to keep it in the workout realm because I'm an idiot. Yeah. And it's just easy for me. Right. But that said, like, I occasionally have to get to the 10. I have to know what 2 in the tank is. I have to know what an 8 is. I have to know what an 11 is. I have to know what failure actually is. 10 is not necessarily failure. 10 is just max effort. And again, going back to the 50-50, sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. Occasionally, I'm going to have to put more weight on the bar than I can push or pull, and I'm probably going to have somebody help me get that off of me to know, for a couple of reasons. There's some physiology that goes on in there in terms of when we talk about things like overspeed training or max effort training. I have to go there in order to push the limit. And if that's done appropriately, going back to creating your plan, you know, you're going back and you're assessing, and what I heard you say is you're record keeping, right? You're actually tracking what the hell you're doing, and there's organization to it. That is a bigger problem, I think, for most people. Yeah. Again, they're looking for what was that guy's plan? What did he do? And if I just do that, I'll get to where I want to go, which could not be any further from the truth. There's concept of individuality here, but there's also this concept of, like, listen, borrowing somebody else's shit to try and get there's a lot of good things you can take away from people. Sure. But particularly in this space with shooting, there's just not that science that exists, because there are just so many variables that are unknown based on the individual that you're going to have to figure this out for yourself. And the only way to reasonably do that is to track, is to constantly practice and constantly push yourself so that you know inside your practice, what do I need to be practicing so I can perform at, again, the performance on demand in competition, where I can perform and still perform. Would you say it's like needs improvement or okay? Yeah.
So how many people do you see that come in here that, you know, they ain't really worked out very much in their life? They decide they want to start doing this kind of thing. Like, how long does it take them to have an actual legitimate awareness of how many reps they have in reserve? Right?
It depends, but it's a while for some people. Yeah,
right? Like, it takes a little time, right?
And plus, they also have a misconception of like what they're doing right, what they think they're doing right. Like, I had a guy on not too long ago. This guy Jimmy Pendergast. I almost mispronounced it. Jimmy Pendergast.
Sounds like a car.
Pendergast. Yeah. He's a beast of a man, works for Modern Athlete Strength. These guys are doing a lot of good stuff in the industry on the strength and conditioning and human performance side of things. But we were talking about this very thing, and like, you know, a guy comes to him and says he's getting an athlete that's, you know, been fairly successful, whatever that means, right? Again, that's successful. And he says,
that mean a player got big biceps.
Whatever. I mean, again, you do enough things consistently long enough, and you're gonna probably improve at some things. But the point of that is the guy says, you know, my squats, my my 3-rep max squats at 405. And let me see your squat, right? That ain't a squat, dude. Like, you're not getting, like, that's a quarter squat, or whatever it is, but that's not good. We have to reel it back, and we have to be, I think you mentioned this, maybe the term you use is handle them with kid gloves, and just go, dude, we need to revisit what your squat looks like. And for that, we are going to have to pull some weight off the bar, and you're going to have to self-examine your ego here and be okay with this so that we can get you to 100%. A true 405 3-rep max squat.
And that's another thing that I think a lot of people struggle with is the realization that sometimes in order to go a couple more steps up the rung of the ladder, you've got to step down just a little bit, man. And like people like, and dude, like I'm fully empathetic to the fact that you hate that. I get it, dude. You know what I mean? Like I've done the same thing.
Any high performer is going to not like that feeling.
I don't like it. Yeah. You know what I mean? But to kind of yield towards what I've heard Pranka say before, I feel the exact same way, dude. If I find out something is better than what I've been doing, I'll abandon what I'm doing immediately, right? And it's because I think that I've done this long enough that I've reached this level of maturity where I genuinely, I don't mind what people think about me. This is for me. Like, I want to do this, and I think so many people are trapped in this box of like, what will somebody think about me if I do this? What will my qual score be if I do this? What will it, and so they've become comfortable where they are, and where they are is good enough for what they've been tasked to do. And so they're very reluctant to kind of be willing to look outside of that box, because then they might find out that they're not what they thought they were, and they could be so much more. And then that requires the effort to actually get there. Yeah. Like, so we want to self-justify, and we want to hide from that realization a lot of times, So yeah, I think a lot of people don't. So I was talking to Blowers, Bill Blowers from Tap Rack Tactical the other day. And he said, I think there's a disconnect between how aware you are of what is happening and what you're doing while you're shooting versus what you think other people can be aware of. He said, I think some people, their bandwidth is so tapped out, dude. They're trying to do what you're saying to do, but they're not aware of all these things that you're aware of. You know what I mean? And it's oftentimes an interesting thing to try to associate what's in my brain to somebody that has potentially never experienced what I've experienced. You know what I mean? So like, they've never felt what I've felt. They've never seen what I've seen. And I have to create this visualization for them somehow with just words of what they're trying to do. And it's not, it's hard, dude. This is a hard thing to do a lot of times, where you have to give somebody permission to fail, right? You have to help them understand and believe that it's okay. It's not representative of them. It's not the identity of a man, nothing like that. And then also help them understand like what they're trying to do, having never experienced it before. Like it's tricky sometimes.
Yeah, especially when you're working in time constraints and limitations of what you're trying to get through. Again, if it's 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, whatever it is. And I think there's limitations that people, obviously, we've talked a lot about law enforcement, but also just in the regular dude who's trying to be better at this. I think you mentioned it earlier. Like, cops got a lot of things to do. They got a lot on their plate, right? Sure. There's a lot of things. Like, you're a D level. You're D level when it comes to case law, and you're maybe a C class, or your C class handcuffer. Yeah. Well, how much time do you spend doing that? And is that even important for you? Kind of thing. So I think in the balance of those things, when we look across like competition and training and, what people get, what they don't get, the value that can come from competition and you should get from competition, which is a whole other thing. Like, understanding what you should be getting from this, I think, is another thing. And people are chasing a score, but what does the score actually mean? And then how do you take that score and apply it back to the training? And what are you doing? Or are you just doing the same things over and over again and expecting a different result? Or, to your point, like buying a piece of equipment or a new gun or whatever else to fix that problem that you think you perceive that you have, right? But you don't really have enough awareness or perception to know that isn't the reason, man. That's not the case.
It is very rare to see a student with a super souped up gun, right? Like these crazy comp staccatos, or, like CZTSOs or Parrots, or, these wild, like supercars of firearms, right? It's very rare to see a person with those that actually throws down, dude.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that because I've noticed that too.
It is very common to see the dude with the old chewed up Glock with grip tape hanging off of it. He's getting ready to tune it up, dude. Yep. You know what I mean? And so, like the imitation being the purest form of learning, right? Like kind of look around and find a dude that you wish you looked like, right? Check out what he's got going on, right? And I bet you it's not $6,000 worth of gear on his belt, man. Right. Yeah,
it's actually a good time for a question. Like what, I mean, you can go back let's just go back in the last year. Cause I think that keeps it relevant here. In the last year, what's the most valuable piece of equipment, right? That you've purchased and then put into application, that you can remember and why?
Oh man. The most valuable piece of equipment for shooting?
Yeah.
Okay. In the past year, I don't know if it was in the past year. So it's weird. I think a lot of people associate the fact that I do what I do, therefore I must be like this big gear guy, right? Like I'm actually not really all that into that. So I don't know about the new guns and stuff when they come out. I don't know about the new optics and stuff.
You learn about them when you go to class and somebody's got one.
Yeah, 100%, right? Because like what I have works and I don't really have a reason to seek out anything else. So I just don't most of the time. I got curious a while back about ZCO optics, and but I don't think that was within the last year, to be fair. But that's probably the last thing that I bought that has any kind of real value to it. But I was interested in, could I actually, with data, come up with an absolute on whether or not spending this kind of money on this optic is going to have any sort of metric-based benefit on your performance, right?
What'd you learn?
I think that the ZCO, so we got to talk about like what is a ZCO? Zero compromise optic, right? It's a, so this is how big of a gear nerd I'm not. I think it's a 4-20.
I love this conversation.
I'm pretty sure it's a 4-20. I think.
Okay. And what were you putting it on?
The Ridgeline LPR is
gotcha.
primary. Now I've had it on multiple guns. 16-inch gun.
Okay.
And what I noticed with it is I think you have to be at a certain level of not only experience, but also skill set to even be able to extract any benefit that it may have anyway, right? So I do not think that whether I win or lose is going to be based on it, first and foremost, right? I don't think it's going to matter. Would I like to have it? Certainly, right? But I'll do it with a Loophole Mark V too. It doesn't matter. But the ZCO is kind of like, so when you buy a Rolex, you pay a lot of money for the same timekeeping as a Casio, right? So then what is it about the Rolex? Well, the quality of the little pieces is going to be substantially increased, right? So like the crown's going to be wildly different, right? The way that the clasp works on the bracelet, the way that it, if you got like a GMT or something that's like like if you look at those chronometers, dude, like the Daytonas, right? Like it's crazy what all's kind of going on with that with such precision. So like the turrets of a ZCO are incredible, right? Like they're just perfect clicks. All the little 0.1 mil lines line up perfectly with the little line you're trying to, like you don't have to worry about, am I at 1.2 or 1.3? Like It's kind of in the middle. Like that's not existent with that. It has a phenomenal locking diopter system. And then the big thing just visually while shooting is the depth of field is tremendous. So if you're a camera dude or if you understand that terminology, right? So depth of field, I'm going to set my side focal adjustment to, 400 yard, whatever arbitrary. I see pretty freaking crystal clear, not only at 400, but from 300 to 500, right? Like the depth of field is insane. And so I think there's benefits by way of the details that level of glass and that level of depth of field and that high contrast lens coatings that they put on there. Like I think there's certainly a benefit that could be argued. So like you see splash better, you see trace better, you see indicators of wind better, like things like that.
Sounds good.
But the vast majority of people aren't placing 49th because they couldn't see the broom straw, bro.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they're placing 49th because they got a 9 MOA wobble zone on a 2 MOA target, and so there is no piece of glass that solves that problem, and so We look at like, you know, and I'm not poo-pooing staccatos. We'll pick another Nighthawk, right? We look at like a Nighthawk that comes in, and a dude bought this thing. He spent $6,000-$7,000 on this thing, and he's like, this is like, here we go. You know, this is the day. You know, and he's still doing the same things he's been doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, because man, there is no solution for the human side of the performance that has to be there, right? Like you can't buy your way out of that. And I think, and I'm victim to this too. I don't know if you are, but like it took me quite a few $1,000s to really learn that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I think everybody at the highest levels has gone through that at some point.
Well, I'm certainly not at the highest level, but it's definitely been part of my journey.
Yeah. But you've been doing this long enough to have an experience and a maturity in it where you realize, okay, this is not sustainable. Like this is not going to work, you know? And I think for a lot of people, man, they've just got to spend the money and figure it out themselves. Cause it's kind of like, you know, there's plenty of people down on you know, Mission Street and Turk down at the Tenderloin in San Francisco that thought they were the only person that wasn't going to get hooked on this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And they found out, damn, I guess everybody's right. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of times, man, people, there's also a piece where it feels good to buy something new, right? So like people want to do that, and I'm not clowning.
This comes
that,
back
right?
to the paying for a training session, and
right,
you know, or
cool,
whatever,
man,
gym
whatever. But yeah, the ZCO is probably that's the most expensive thing I've bought that wasn't night vision related in a very long time, or like a small used car or something. You know what I mean? And even now, the vast majority of what I still do is with a dot magnifier. You know, and I'll break that out if it matters. Like, you met Scott Peterson, right?
Yep.
So if I'm competing against Scott Peterson, yeah, dude, put the CCO on the gun. You know what I mean? Like
whatever edge I could possibly
give me everything
get.
I can get. You know what I mean? But you know, if I'm just kind of exploring and going to a match to kind of see what I think about this handguard and how far can I push a red dot and magnifier, like it's whatever. Because like the foundation will survive. If it's strong enough, it'll survive the earthquake, man. You know what I mean? Like like when stuff goes wrong, you understand what went wrong. You know what the fix is. You know what you need to do.
This goes back to how we started this conversation. Yeah.
And so a lot of people, they experience the earthquake on like, you know, stage 4, about halfway through it, right? And they're like, oh, good Lord, you know, and all this, and everything's falling apart. I think I lost my zero. I'm pretty sure that you know that Chinaman selling me them cheap cartridges again, like on True Grit. You know what I mean? And it's really just that your foundation's not strong enough to recognize what is happening, what I need to do, and how to make corrections on the fly. It's a human performance skill, man. That's what's lacking.
That's where I was coming. That's exactly the answer I figured I would get from you. I actually had that conversation offline with Scott Peterson one day, just kind of talking to him about different things because he's a nerd and knows all the stuff. And
dude, I've seen Scotty.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, you could throw whatever you want on your gun, like when you're competing against Scott.
Bro, I've seen Scotty beat the brakes off fools with a Vortex Strike Eagle.
That's what I mean.
Like, and I think he does it on purpose.
Yep.
Right, to kind of prove a point. Like it ain't the stuff, right? And to be fair, like I've done the same things, right? Like I competed at a scope rifle match with a dot and a magnifier on purpose because I wanted to show dudes like the biggest pushback I get from trying to convince dudes to go shoot scope rifle match. Oh, well, I ain't got an optic for that, or oh, I ain't got a gun for that, or they think they need like this freaking, you know, super duper sniper system with all the lasers and all, you know. And it's like, dude, I took an 11.5-inch Hodge SBR, which is about a 2, maybe 3-minute gun at best, my particular one, and I threw a Razor 1 to 10 on it. I went to a match. Now, there's a couple of details that might be worth mentioning. It was my little boy's first ever match. He was there with me, so I spent a lot of time getting him set up. I wasn't really focused as much as I normally am. I was worried about him more than me, and I ended up placing 8th out of, I think, 100 people. And the next day I went back and I took a dot and magnifier on the Ridgeline gun, and I won that match, right? And so I did that to show, like, dude, just show up with whatever you got. You can learn lessons with whatever you have. You know what I mean? And it's not that you need to buy a piece of gear. It's that you don't understand why you're missing is the problem, you know? So
that's the answer I was looking for. And not that, you know, it was preloaded, because it wasn't, but I pretty much figured out here that I just think about, like, it doesn't matter if you've got a barbell from Big 5 in your garage, or you got a $3,000 Eleiko bar, which I don't
even know what the hell that means.
Eleiko bar in your, you in your garage. It's still a bar.
How about a keg with some water in it?
Yeah. I mean,
how about go pick
these
up a
Russian dudes? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's application, right? And what are your inputs into it? Yeah, it's a good conversation because again, like people are getting heavy into the competition, which is really great to see.
Sure.
And because they're testing themselves, and there's community being built there, and then people are challenging one another, and it's challenging people to be introspective in the way that you talked about, and how should I apply this, and maybe I need to do some reading, right, instead of just watching 15-second or 15-minute YouTube videos and things like that, and learn a little bit more about stuff. More importantly, they're starting to figure themselves out a little bit more, and the conversation is starting to get a little bit smarter, I think, at a lot of levels, and we're starting to hear how people are, or what people are learning from the competition themselves. Not just, hey, I went out and competed and this is my score and this is how I did, and I moved from this class to that class or whatever. But here's the things that I learned on this stage, and they're explaining what they did right and when they're explaining what they did wrong. And I think that's really valuable, for the consumer that's looking at it. And I'm not sure everybody's kind of picking that up right now. I really appreciate that when I see that somebody comes out and go, they put their worst stage up, right? And then they go through, and it's like, it's not the, look at how awful I am, I suck. It's, I didn't do well here. Here's what I did. Here's what I should have done differently.
Yeah.
And I pick up more from that type of stuff than anybody else, or than anything else I get about like somebody running a super fast stage and crushing it. Like that did a lot of things right.
Yeah.
But like, there's definitely things that he stepped away from that and gone, man, I could have done this better. I would love to hear about that stuff.
People have this weird thing where they think that like their social media heroes, and whatnot are just perfect all the time. And they fail to recognize that what I think is just a blatantly obvious thing where like that video that you watch that dude do, man.
It's a highlight reel.
That's the best thing that happened that day.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything else that they did that day was worse than that. That's why they posted that one, right? And then also, like I've shot with the greats of this generation, right? And dude, I seen them all miss, right? Like my buddy Nick Young at Velox, right? JJ Racaza, Bobby Vogel, Bill Blowers, like all I seen them all miss, right? And so like there's this weird thing that people think they have to have this perfect target all the time, or they just suck at shooting. And it's like, dude, like people are human beings, right? They're going to screw up a stage every now and then. They're going to screw up a thing. Like one of my favorite things to do is like when I dick something up while I'm shooting with the students on an exercise, is to walk them through.
You do that?
Yeah, I say sometimes. It's very rare, very rare. But sometimes I'll screw something up, right? And like one of my favorite things to do is to be vulnerable and just like say like, okay, man, so here's what happened. Here's why it happened, right? So I know exactly what happened. I'm fully aware of how that occurred. Let me walk you through this so that hopefully understanding or hearing those words, you can connect the dots and you'll feel it or see when you do it. You know what I mean? And I really do think that a lot of people get a lot out of that because like nobody ever talks about why they failed. They just talk about how they succeed, and I think there's a lot to be learned in like when you screw it up, what happened, let's talk about that, and because, again, kind of circling back, I truly don't mind failing at a shooting thing in front of students because we're in a training environment, man. And it's not representative of what I can do because I'm not trying to do what I can do. I'm trying to do what I wish I could do, and so it doesn't matter to me. So, but I think a lot of people have not yet reached, I don't know if that's a maturity thing or I don't know, we can go like, full kumbaya, like you're coming to peace with this or like whatever. But a lot of people haven't reached the point where they're willing to miss in front of others and to be like, it's cool, man. We'll just tape it up. I know what to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it goes back. I don't know if we were talking about this online or offline. It just, again, the permission to fail, but here's all the things you may not do, right? Like there's safety things and there's things you don't want to do with a firearm.
Certain things we don't want to violate.
Right. There's absolutely some black and white there. But I think in the training environment and how people have gone through it previously, that has just not been an option. Like failure at a lot of levels is not an option. Like, you don't reach over and pick up a mag after you drop a mag, you leave it there until, Yeah, we don't do that. And I get that to some extent. Like, we don't want people stepping in front of the line, chasing mags or whatever, at the same time. But at the same time, like, the shit's sitting at your feet, dude.
Well,
I think, and that's maybe a terrible example, but
I get what you're trying to say.
But my point of that is like, this is like, that's what they're thinking about in that moment, when they could be thinking about what just happened for the last 5 seconds when I was supposed to go through that string of 3. Or or whatever.
There's certain things that exist because we have to have them, right? So like in USPSA, there is the 180 rule, right? The 180 rule is a game rule. It's not a safety rule. Okay, it's not a safety rule, right? And so why does it exist? Well, it exists because we don't get to hand select who shows up to this today, right? And so we have to have some sort of overarching blanket where we say, okay, no matter what, this is not acceptable because, bro, we don't know you.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we're just not going to do this, And so it's in the same breath, like, let me give you 70 students who come from a household where there never were any guns and they want to be cops, and we're going to put them all on this line. Like, there has to be certain things that have to be in play because, dude, we don't know if you're just a fool or out of your mind or not. So here is the rule: we will not do this.
But at one point, do we start to loosen up the reins?
So I'm not going to pretend I'm smart enough to understand how that should work at an institutional level that has all the red tape that a law enforcement agency does. Frankly, because I've never worked there, I don't understand all of the things. I don't know, but I do think there's something to be said about creating a culture within a culture, right? Where we recruit people that feel the way we do, have a higher level of commitment than most, like we do, and we're going to do all the things that are required of us, right, with the agency. But then on Thursdays after work and on Saturday morning, we're going to do our thing, And I don't know how you fix the problem that we've got, where we've got very low commitment people, we've got very low skill people, as a pretty significant majority in the law enforcement world. I'm not going to pretend I know how to fix that. I don't. I think if we were to say, hey, we want to solve this problem, you'd have to fire 60% of all cops in America, man.
Yeah.
And that's not sustainable either, right? That doesn't solve the problem.
I think it's more than that. But
I had a guy from Phoenix call me, I don't know, maybe a couple months back, and he said, "Hey, man, I just wanted to talk to you real quick about, like, what do you think is the current problem in American policing, right? Like, what do we need to do, And I just kind of thought about it for a minute, dude, and I think it's significantly deeper than that. I don't think we have a policing problem. I think we have a culture problem, right? Because before they're cops, they're normal people, right? So, like, all of these things that they hold dear and things that they hold in high honor and their shame or lack thereof, like, all of that is pre-built before they ever even come to you, right? And so we've created a culture in America where shame is not really a word that we hear a lot anymore, right? And I think that shame and honor share a grave. Like, when shame dies, so does honor. You know what I mean? Like, when nothing is shameful, then nothing's dishonorable, right? And so, like, why do I, like, my natural desire is to sit on the couch and eat ice cream, right? Like, that's what I want to do, right? But I know that if I do that, there are effects of that and consequences of that I'm not willing to accept, right? So the pay value of why I stay where I can move, I can climb, I can run, I can lift, I can do all these things is because to watch the downfall of my children due to my I'm incapable to save them would be dishonorable. It would be shameful, right? It would be, I can't imagine, you know what I mean? And so that's the pay value for why I will not allow that, right? And so the same kind of thing with when you go to work. Do you go to work and you just show up to get a paycheck? Or do you go to work because you actually want to work as though you're working for the king in heaven, not human masters, man? Like, I'm trying to do the best. Like, if I'm a bag boy, I'm going to have a freaking chrono on I'm timing this. I'm going to be the best bag boy the world has ever seen, man, because, like, that's just what was put into me.
There's like a sense of duty, I think, is kind of what I hear you say.
Well, you owe it to the people around you that you're associated with to try your best, man, and I feel that, and so Like I try to give my students my best, dude. It's not lost on me. They some people save a long time to choose this class to go to, right? I'm going to give you 100% of me, dude, because I don't think that you deserve for me to just stand here and tell you funny jokes and listen to my accent. We just sit around, drink water for 30 minutes. Like I recognize like you've been planning for this. Let's get to work, man. But I don't think most people feel like that. Is what I feel like.
Yeah. How is that being received? Like in general, you know, when you're out there and you're trying to instill that, right? In that sense of,
well,
I want you to do better and I'm going to give you everything I've got to get there. How do they receive that from you?
I think that the vast majority of them,
do they even know what to do with you?
They certainly do. You know, speak to me afterwards, and I get a lot of, hey, I appreciate you doing this, man. Like I really liked how you did this, you know, and I appreciate what you said there at the end, you know, and kind of drove us towards more honorable lives, you know, and stuff like that. And people definitely recognize it, right? And I absolutely have, so I keep screenshots of very important or very important things that I get. So like I've gotten multiple emails and multiple
like so like impactful things.
I've gotten multiple things through social media or through you know, email that talk about, hey man, the way that you are and the way that you said this and the way that you drove me to do this. I got one dude that told me I helped save his marriage. You know what I mean? I don't know how the hell that ties together. I don't know, right? But whatever. So I certainly get that feedback. But dude, how many people, you know, in 2026 sitting there on you know, on December 31st are making the decision that they're going to work out this year.
Yeah.
They're going to change.
They go through
you know
every year, man.
And then you get this influx of sign-ups.
I'm really going to do it this time.
Yeah. And by the end of February, we're back to normal again, you know? So I think a lot of people get this feeling in the moment of like, man, this is good stuff. I want to be better. I want to do better, you know, and this and that. But I think if you don't have a culture around you that can have a source of fuel for that fire ain't going to last very long, man. And so I think that it's very, very important to exist and to intentionally present yourself to a group of people that you wish you were like, right? Like I want to chase something, man. I think a lot of people live in ponds where there ain't no sharks, right? And nobody's ever really been around no sharks before. And they exist with a lot of little fish, and because they exist with a lot of little fish, they do little fish behaviors. You know what I mean? And there's so much that ties. Like I know we're talking about shooting, right? But like there's so much that ties into this that's not just shooting. It's like if you're running around on your wife and you're mean to your kids and you just show up to do the bare minimum at work, you will not be a good shooter because you ain't got the mindset for this stuff, dude.
Right? Yeah.
Like you suck at everything you do, and you're gonna suck at this too. You know what I mean? And I say that with a very authoritarian tone, but dude, it's like, what would you want somebody to say to your son, right? Like tell him the truth, man. Like you're a garbage human being. That's why you suck at this,
right?
You know, and I think a lot of times we're not having that conversation where it's like there is nothing you're going to tell this man to make him better because he don't want to be better. I
actually think that's pretty powerful because I think you're right about that in a lot of ways. And so I hear people working really hard and getting really frustrated at the cultures, you know, in plural, because there's a lot of them out there, and they're not taking that into account. It's like, oh, this person's lazy. Probably a little bit of that, or you know, this person, you know, is selfish. It's probably a little bit of that. I think we all have a little bit of that in us, right? It's kind of hard coded in our DNA, like you said. Like I want to sit on the couch and eat ice cream, but I don't because I have a higher sense of purpose. And again, to expect that somebody else is going to have that, I think is a bit unrealistic. And I think putting a lot of energy into that, you know, I'm not saying the messages aren't good, like to try to encourage people, but is that what you're doing? Or are you just saying that to make yourself feel better? And if you said that without looking at yourself in the mirror first, and what are the things that you can be doing a better job with? And again, this is going back to the kumbaya thing.
Yeah.
There's this culture's, fortunately, again, I think a little bit of that is related to the shame thing. I think that's a good thing. Like, I think that's important. Like sometimes people have to put things in front of your face. They have to hold it up in front of your face and you have to feel that because that's the thing that ultimately cultivates the change, right? Or catalyzes the is the catalyst for making a different decision to do something different. But what's the balance in that, and how should they be thinking instead of feeling shameful? How can I feel better about doing this? And what are the things that I could be improving to do that? And whether it's the training, whether it's competition, whether it's not running around on your wife, not being mean to your kids, whatever else, it's those other pieces. And I want to know that the people that are out there giving me that advice through a post or through an email or something like that are also doing those same things. And I don't know, man, I don't see a lot of that.
Dude, I think that this industry is full of garbage human beings that have been successful, right? And I don't think, like, nobody that's ever trained with me, this won't come as a shock to any of them, but maybe other people. Like my overarching goal is not to make better shooters, right? Like I think on the surface that's what's marketed, and certainly I think we do that, right? But like my goal is to try my best to save the honorable, integrity-filled American male, right? Because he's dying, and it's not lost on me. I can't save everybody, man. I got it, right. Reminds me of Kevin Costner in The Guardian. He said, "How do you choose who to save when you know you can't save them all?" And he said, "I swim as fast as I can, as hard as I can, for as long as I can. The sea takes a rest." Right? You don't think about that because there's nothing you can do, right? And there's certain people that I've run into that there's nothing I can do for them, right? But there's other people, man, where there's like a little ember in them, right? And you can kind of sense it, you know what I mean? And if I can just blow on that ember a little bit and just kind of get a flame going, like maybe that's what that dude needs to change, the condition of his life for the past couple of years, or whatever. Or maybe that's what that dude needs to finally take the time to go be alone and in person and for real with his child, you know what I mean? And put the phone down, man, and just and understand that, like, your shooting capability is certainly a thing that I'm interested in, but I'm far more interested in your heart condition, man. Because I think if we can fix that, we'll see better shooters, we'll see better men, we'll see better people that want to do better.
Some would say that's very idealistic, Mark.
Yeah, I don't know what that word means, but
no, I think, again, some would say, yeah, that's what we all would like to see, but that's not the case. So it just is what it is. And then they would leave it at that versus trying to make an impact on it in some other way. It's interesting what you said there about just being a better person and how that impacts your shooting. And maybe to get better at shooting, you should maybe do a little less of that and focus on some other areas of your life to go out there and get that done. I mean, that's kind of like esoteric in a thought, but in a way. But at the same time, like I don't disagree with you. I think, like, if you find the word is balance that comes to mind, and again, that's going to be a cliched word, but if you have to put your energy in other things.
Be intentional.
Be
intentional about what you're doing, man. Right. And like, that's like, a lot of people dabble in shooting, but they're not very intentional about what they're doing.
Oh, that's been me plenty of times. Yeah.
And a lot of people dabble in,
but I'm honest about it. I'll be very honest about it.
Their marriage, but they're not intentional. Right. And a lot of people dabble in fatherhood, but they're not intentional. Right. And so I think that the mark of an honorable fella that's really thinking about what he wants to do in this life and what he wants to leave, right? He's intentional about everything he does, right? Like, nothing is just because, like, whatever, we got something, we'll just do whatever. Like, everything has a purpose, and I think that's because he's got a deeper seated idea of, like, I want to do something bigger than me. I want to leave something bigger than me. I want to, and I think, like, whatever that is, I don't, my vocabulary fails me a lot of times. I don't know what that word would be, but, like, whatever that is, that's what's missing, man. It's like this idea of, like, doing, like, you're not called to exist and die, man. Like, you're like, do better. You know what I mean?
I know, I do know. And I would also say this, like, I would say, if I had to ask myself the question, like, where am I seeing that happen and how is it impacting people just in this last year? I've had a few conversations, several actually, with folks in the last year, because I've been seeking those out. To who is actually making those types of impacts in places. Yeah. And they are saying the exact same thing you are. And some of them, as hard as they're saying it and they're actually being very intentional or trying to do it, they're running into brick walls. And it's frustrating them. And they've found themselves at times kind of drifting back into the shell or whatever of being bitter and fighting harder and banging their head against a wall. And then that takes away from some of these other components or other aspects of being intentional on other things, and ultimately they've had to make decisions to leave places or leave a company or stop doing a particular thing that they thought they really loved doing. And then when they did that and they got ridded themselves of that, I would say, they moved on, and now they are fucking thriving, man. Yeah. They're thriving and doing whatever that they're doing, and they love it, and you can see it, like you can feel it. It's palpable, like whether you see it, in their face, in their eyes, whatever. But you're sitting seeing what they're putting out on social media, and like there's a couple guys. I mean, you mentioned a dude in Phoenix. Maybe we're talking about the same guy who's out there now doing his own thing. And man, when I see his posts, like when he's shooting, right, like at competitions, when he's out there teaching other folks in different environment than he was teaching, you can literally feel it. Like it's just like there's a different dude right there for a lot of reasons.
Well, there's, my peers in this industry, man, I think there's, and I'm not disparaging them, I'm just being honest. I think there's quite a few of them that they do what they do because they want to make money, and this is a fun job.
It's what they know.
And it's, and it's kind of their thing, right? But there's a small group of other dudes, man, that like, they want to light a fire under somebody, right? Like that's like they want.
I can appreciate that a little bit though.
Yeah. And like that's kind of how I feel, man. Like I want, and I'm not saying I do. I want to change somebody's whole life, like in a 2-day shooting class. Right. That's what I want to do. If that doesn't happen, happy meal for you. You get a 2-day shooting class, right? But if it does, man, like that's, in my opinion, that's a life well lived. Like we did some stuff while we were here.
Yeah, you can go home if you're living with that type of intention. You can go home feeling good at the end of every 2-day shooting class or 1-week trip where you're doing 2 shooting classes or whatever else.
Whatever.
Yeah, and the bonus is you maybe make a little money doing it, right? Put some food on your table.
If every man in America was slam full of honor and slam full of integrity, I think we see some different stuff, dude. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so if that's true, then why are we just sitting around watching what happens happen? Like, speak up, man. And I think one of the things that I do that I've always kind of been pretty good at, right? I ain't never been shy about this kind of stuff. Like, I'm pretty bold with some of the things that I say, right? And I don't know that some of these dudes have ever had somebody just straight up blatantly say some of this stuff to them, right? And it's not, again, I don't intend to berate a man or to ostracize him or nothing like that. It's just like, man, a lot of people feel like a lot of these conversations are controversial moments with like the coach or something. And, and it's like, dude, it's just an adult conversation. Like, let's just talk, dude.
Give me an example. Like, give me some example of something that happened recently where you had to do that, and that was a conversation with another grown ass man, and it was taken. And how did the person take it?
So, fella in a place about, I don't know, within the last 2 months, he turns laterally to the right with a pistol. He's got his finger on the trigger while he's moving with it, and he flags the entire group on the next station down, right? So not only do we got a hot gun, not only do we got finger on the trigger, but we got gun covering everybody, so that's immediate no-go. It's obvious to me your capacity of whatever your RAM space is or your bandwidth is tapped. You cannot accomplish this, right?
We've overreached.
And so I went up to him, told him what was going on. He was, he didn't argue about it. He knew he had done it after I told him he had done it, kind of thing.
Did he realize he'd even done it yet?
I don't know if he realized to the degree of what he had done.
Yeah, again, so you've gone beyond his bandwidth.
He was not.
There's nothing intentional,
argumentative about it, right? He, but he kind of goes back there and he sits down, and I went back there to him and I said, man, right off the bat, I'm not mad at you, right? I don't hate you. I don't think you're an idiot. I don't think nothing like that, right? But I got to do something. So for the rest of the day, you're going to run dry, right? I want you to stay here. You paid to get the information. I want you to get the information, but you've kind of exited the circle of trust at this point. So we're gonna go ahead and go dry the rest of the day for everything you do. So I'm gonna need you to put your ammo, And he's like, "So you're gonna make me put my ammo up?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "So you're gonna humiliate me in front of everybody?" And I said, "Well, so wait a minute, man. So a couple things. Number one, let's not get emotional. I'm not getting emotional, right? I didn't do anything. You did this. And he was like, well, yeah, but you're doing all that. And I was like, I'm doing what I'm doing because of what you did. This is reactionary. This is not anything I intended to happen, right? Like, this is not something that I planned to do. This is not something where I said, I'm going to single out that guy, right? Like, you did this. And he said, well, I'm not sure what you're saying. And I said, well, I guess what I'm saying is I feel like maybe you don't understand that, like,
the magnitude of what this
you're dicked up, dude, right? Not me. Like you don't feel this way because of what I'm doing. You feel this way because of what you did.
And we're having a conversation about it.
Yeah. And he's like, well, I don't know if there's any point in me staying around. And I said, well, and I'm sure if you feel like that, there's probably not.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, so you want me to leave? And I said, that's not what I said.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you said. And I said, but consider why you want to leave. Do you want to leave because you don't think there's nothing else here for you? Or do you want to leave because it's a self-justification mechanism to get you out of what you've gotten yourself into?
And your ego's bruised.
And what I would encourage you to do is to sit back here. I'm not going to bother you, right? Nobody's going to bother you. Just sit back here and think for a second about what just happened, what's happening now, right? And recognize that the only person that feels emotional right now and feels volatile right now is you. I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So why do you feel like that, right? And I think it's a protection mechanism, right? Defensive mechanism to protect self-image, and all these kinds of things. And again, man, it's not. I'm fine. I'm not mad. I'm not screaming. I'm not putting you on display in front of everybody. It is what it is, right? But like, we got to do something. So here's what we're gonna do. You cool with that? No, I'm gonna whine about it. Okay, cool. Man, we'll whine about it if you want to, right? But I'm fine. You know? And there's multiple things, right? Where you run into people that have never had somebody just be honest with them.
Yep.
And it's because we sugarcoat everything because we're worried about what this person might think about us, or something like that. And I've gotten to the point where, like, do you want me to create an environment where you feel good, or do you want me to tell you the truth?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think people that are in the position to make that decision about how they handle the environment, again, like an instructor or coach or whoever is doing that, is uncomfortable doing that, and it manifests in a few different ways, like making a joke, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That kind of thing. And again, there's a time and a place for everything.
Sure.
But how much impact are you going to have on somebody by shaming them or making a joke?
You're not, dude.
That's my point.
How many times have you gone to church because some nut on the corner was telling you you were going to go to hell?
Yeah.
It doesn't happen, man. It doesn't happen, right? And so I think that the conversation needs to go away from humiliation and beratement, and like what are you?
It's an honest conversation.
What are you doing right now, right? Like, do you actually give a damn if anybody gets better and understands this stuff? Or are you trying to put yourself on a pedestal and promote yourself to try to fill some kind of void that you've got within yourself that lacks fulfillment, man?
Or avoid some type of uncomfortable, conversation or situation.
And
that you didn't even create. Somebody else did. You're just making it worse by behaving that way.
So I tell you what is kind of my...
Man, the guy yelling at me about going to church on the corner is a great analogy.
Dude, 100%, right? Because it's true, right? Like, nobody has never...
Sinner.
Nobody has ever come into the fold because somebody screamed at them enough. Like, that's not a thing, right? Unless you're in the Marine Corps. Maybe you experienced that, right? But the really cool, like, true north that I've found with this is I think about my 13-year-old boy all the time, right? And what would I want somebody to say to my son?
Mm-hmm. If you're not there.
And I would want somebody to tell him the truth above all things. Do not protect him, right? Tell him the truth, right? And so I think a lot of times, man, so I remember back in the day when I was in the plumbing business, I would have guys that they would call me an asshole. They'd say I was mean. I was hard on them, and things like this.
Because you're telling them the truth.
And twice I've had men call me 10, 15 years later, right? And say, hey, man, I just want to tell you I appreciate you for doing what you did and being who you were, because I wasn't able to see it then, but I understand now why you were doing that. You know what I mean? And I think that that's never going to be lost as long as whatever it is you're doing, and I know it sounds, again, like mushy-gushy, man, but it's from a place of love. Like, I give a damn about you, dude. That's why I'm doing it. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I just throw you out.
Right.
Like I want you to learn. But you misconceptualize it as I want to hold authority over you
or make you feel bad about yourself.
Yeah, like dude, it's not that. It's like what greater lesson is there in the shooting world to learn other than lessons on safety, man?
Yeah.
Like you got to learn,
right?
And warnings and please don't do that again. Like those are plea agreements. They're not real. There has to be consequence. Every meaningful change that has ever happened in a man's life has had an emotion attached to it, right? Whether it's sad, grief, fear, happiness,
loneliness,
that will change a man, right? So I'm going to tell you the truth. And I think if your heart condition is correct and you feel an emotion right now about this, you'll never forget this, right? And it'll change you.
Yeah, I think, man, there's a lot to that because there are some personalities types out there that are very good instructors by their own right, and they're very influential. Let's just put it that way. And I think when people listen to them, they hear it in a couple of different ways. Sure. And I've heard them all. I feel like I've heard them all at this point. And I'm sure there's some out there that I haven't. But that said, I've heard them all. And when I hear them talk and be very emotional, and I don't look at it as that they're angry or pissed off or mad, or I hear what I hear it coming from. And again, I see how it could be misconstrued. A lot of times I just hear it as...
A lot of it's frustration.
Yeah, they're frustrated. That's what it is. It's like, God, like, why can you not get this? Like, and I really want you to get this, but you guys are killing me, man. Kind of thing. And I appreciate that. I appreciate, because to me, where that comes from is they do care. They care that much, so much so that it can actually wreck them, right? And then that frustration can manifest into things where, other things get said or other things get handled where it's slightly out of character, and then nobody's gonna forget about that. When you do that kind of thing. My point being is like, I hear your frustration, man, and I get it and I appreciate it. Just check in for a second, man. Take a deep breath. Like, what's the point? What's the mission, dude? Well, yeah, what are you trying to get across? Yeah,
I think so. I saw a YouTube video from a guy. Have you heard of Tom Castro?
Oh yeah,
yeah. So I saw a YouTube video where
actually he's got a really good online like training program, dry fire program, whatever I was introduced to. So shout out to Castro.
I don't know him personally, but I've kind of just been watching him, and so I saw a YouTube video, and somebody put. So I was in a Facebook group, right? This is kind of null and void, but whatever. And somebody mentioned something about like why are you being so mean to him? So there was a commenter on the YouTube video of Tom. It was a video of Tom teaching a class,
and it was attacking Tom.
And he said, and so somebody reposted, and he said, "I don't understand why this dude's being so mean to everybody." Right. And I remember thinking, I don't perceive it that way at all. Like it literally never crossed my mind that he was being mean to anybody. What he was being was very direct, right? Like for sure. And I remember, I commented, and I was like, is he being mean or is he being honest?
Yep.
Because like there's a difference, dude. Like being mean is intentional and like malicious. There's a goal tied to it.
We see that shit all the time.
But being honest is just like, dude, you asked me to tell you what was wrong.
Yeah, you don't like the answer.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I think that somehow maybe, I don't know if it's social media related or what it is, but like we've gotten to a point where we can't even talk to each other anymore, dude. Like it's weird.
So I don't think it's necessarily social media. I think it's very easy to point fingers at social media, and social media has a lot to blame. But I think that comes back to the human there, and I refuse to give social media the credit for that person's behavior. Like I want inherently, I believe humans are good and they want to do the right thing. Yeah. Like I really truly believe that. At the same time, like it's definitely easier. It's a space where you can get away with a lot more, right, and literally not get punched in the face. Yep. And so people think they can say things because they can, without consequence, right? So yeah, is there some contribution there from social media? Yes. But I think that for sure. But at the same time, like, I don't know. I don't know if we can put it all on social media to say for sure.
And I don't know what it's from. I'm not smart enough to really be able to diagnose that, but it's certainly something where we've gotten to a place where like, if anybody says anything that is not promoting you, it's mean to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's a weird thing to me. So you were talking about, how we got, so people can say whatever they want to and they don't get smacked, and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually in Sunday school. So I'm, as you might imagine, I'm kind of the black sheep in the church, right?
What?
Yeah.
That's weird.
I lived a life that was not of God before I figured this out, right? And so they're sitting in there one day, and they're talking about this kid at a customer service counter that was just being rude, or something like that. And they just couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe how a kid like that could be rude to this old lady, blah, blah, blah. And I said, man, y'all ever wonder, like, what would the world be like if tomorrow we woke up and simple assault was no longer illegal? Right? Like, you can get smacked in the mouth for anything.
Behaviors would change.
And nobody's coming, bro. You know what I mean? Like, I think I might want to live there. You know what I mean? I think people would be so much kinder to people. People would be holding the doors for people. It'd be great, right? Like, do you know how many, 18, 19-year-old dipshits that I haven't popped in the back of the head because I got a small child with me and they're up there, dropping cuss words at the counter of the checkout line, because I got a lot to lose here. You know what I mean? And it's like, dude, if that didn't exist, dude, I'd smack you in the back of the head with a root beer right now.
Well, you were here. You actually were in this building when one of those incidents happened.
Yeah, dude, I didn't like that.
Right out front. And I didn't like that. Like, I had to calm you down a little bit because
I don't like that crap, man.
I don't either. I was the same way, but at the same time, like that simple assault is not a thing.
Yeah.
Right. Otherwise, things would have been a little bit different. I've had enough experiences now to understand what the consequences are for me to do.
And we're in a different place out here than we are back home.
100%.
I got it.
But the point is the same, right? Like it's you
shouldn't be able to do that.
No, you shouldn't.
And nothing happens.
You shouldn't be able to behave like that.
Shouldn't be real.
And not get your teeth kicked in. But that's that's a different story for a different day.
I had forgot about that. I remember that. I had a whole plan. I was gonna come around the block and come back towards that fellow.
All right, so we got to tell the story now. So,
okay.
Mark's in here. Mark's in here in a mobility class.
Exercising.
Right, he's exercising. Right, and he's got his shoes off, which is a thing, right? So, because that was part of the thing, and I'm doing whatever.
I don't throw down barefoot.
I'm doing whatever I'm doing, and there's one of San Jose's finest out on the street having a bad day.
That don't mean the police, by the way.
No, not the police. This is one of our non-tax paying citizens here.
Right.
And, comes by, and we've got these two sandwich boards that we put out on the sidewalk, and he felt like he needed to destroy those signs. So we went off on those signs. So I went ahead and walked outside.
What's your boy's name that was teaching the class?
Ryan.
So Ryan. So I remember. So I'm kind of interested in what's going on, right? I'm in this class, right? And he's like, Mark, I really need you to stretch it for me, or whatever he's talking about, right? And I was like, hang on a minute, Ryan. We'll get to that in a second. Hey, there's something happening out here, But anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So I went ahead and waited till he was outside the front window space and confronted him or whatever. We had a few words, and that guy didn't want to have anything to do with me at that point. Like when he finally stopped yelling and turned around and kind of saw, I was like, oh, this is probably not what I want to do. But at that point, you were coming out the front door because you had to get up.
I gotta get my shoes on. You gotta get your shoes on, man.
Put your shoes on. He's
I got in a little bit of a thing back in the day in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, while I was barefooted. Right.
Yeah, and you learned your lesson.
And dude, I caught my foot on the edge of a sidewalk curb and ripped my toenail off.
Yeah, and you're done.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's funny that like you notice that, because like that's literally why I do that. Like I don't throw down barefooted, man. Yeah. Like I'm gonna put my shoes on.
The thing was slightly diffused or whatever else, but it goes back to your point of what possesses a person to think that they can can behave that way. I don't know. Maybe the guy was on the meds he shouldn't have been on, or not on the meds he should be on, or something. I don't know.
I don't know. So I'm not smart enough to diagnose none of this, right? But the reason I think it is because when he does it, nothing happens.
100%.
Like, even you don't have to be a rocket scientist. Like you think about children, right? So like we take a child. Do you know why my 3-year-old will not stick a butter knife in a light socket? Because she knows I will pop that hind end for that, right? Like, and so she's not full of wisdom and intelligence, right? But she understands that this action warrants this response. I just ain't gonna do that no more, And it's weird to me how we've gotten into a society where dude, I don't know. It's like, why is it unacceptable to smack a dude for being a jackass?
Yeah. So circling that back, it really comes back to, why wouldn't you want to have that conversation with somebody so that they can avoid that situation some other point in their life, and other people can too, right?
Yeah.
Again, this wasn't public. You said you were in the back and you're having this conversation with them sort of, offline or whatever. But the point of that is circling back to, the training and the competition and bettering yourself and going at it with intention is having these honest conversations. And I think that's sorely lacking. And when we look at things like, who's leading the way, who is in front of the conversation that people seem to be following, I think more than ever, people want direction. They want leadership. They want to follow. There's a lot of people that they want to follow a good leader. They want to follow a good example. The problem is, it's got for so long. Again, I'm not blaming social media for this, but it is a contributor to this. They don't even know what that looks like, right? And so when it comes to like, if we bring it back to shooting and we see people that are really excelling, what are they actually excelling at? Are they excelling at selling their thing, or are they excelling at the craft that they're in? And it just so happens that they have a product or a service that they can get behind with regard to the accomplishments that they had and the way they handled themselves in the process to get there. And there are lots of people out there, and they're the ones that do not put out the volatile, sexy posts out there. Like I'm very fortunate. I've always said this, like I feel very privileged to have had and be able to reach out to people, and they'll respond to me and we can have conversations.
You've been very fortunate.
When I say
it's cool. When I can relate to that.
When I say that, like there are often times where I don't know how.
I don't even know what's happening right now.
How did I get into this room? How did and I fanboy all the time. Like
I've been thinking about the word interested lately, right? So a dude asked me the other day, he's like, what's different from your class than what these dudes have always experienced, right? And the first thing that kind of came to mind was, I feel like what I do that, and this isn't me brushing my own hair, right? I ain't trying to sell nothing to nobody or nothing. It's just, thinking about what we're talking about. I potentially, for a large majority of, especially the LE side of the house, I'm the first time ever that somebody's ever given them permission to be interested in what they're doing, not necessarily just do what you're told to be doing, right? Like genuinely be interested in what's happening right now. Like, and does this make sense? And if it does, let's hold on to it. If it don't, let's crap can it, right? But let's have the conversation about like, what's the end state here that we're trying to go for? And does this follow suit to that? Or is this just something that quote will work?
Yeah.
Right. Like this, again, a lot of things will work, man. But there's plenty of things that work better.
Yeah. That comes, it actually circles it all the way back to the beginning of the conversation. Is like, if I can find something that works better than what I know or what I'm doing, I will, again, in the immortal words of Matt Pranka, I will immediately abandon what I'm doing and do that. Just show it to me, articulate it to me, and do it in a way that makes sense.
Give me permission to try.
Yeah, and don't shove it down my throat. Just introduce it to me and show me. Let's have a conversation about it. And I've always appreciated that. And it's one of the things I've always appreciated about you. And again, going back to me feeling as fortunate as I am to be in the same room with people to even begin those conversations, to even be at this point now. I mean, I'd be remiss to not acknowledge Michael Lavella and Fred. They invited me out to Georgia. I went down there. I mean, you already mentioned, like, you were there. Scott Peterson was there. Blake was there. There was a whole host of dudes down there where I was like, these are people that I've been seeing and listening to and following and taking in over time, and gathered a lot of good. And all of a sudden I'm standing around all these, I'm like, how the fuck did I get here? I can tell you how. I stepped onto an elevator at SHOT Show in Las Vegas, and Fred and Mike were standing there. I go, hey guys, what's going on? I just started that conversation, and then it turned into a longer conversation and an invite, and it was all because I just went into it humble, like, dude, I got questions for you, man. Can I ask those? Can I ask him? He's like, ask away.
I think the humility is the key word there, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I've long held the opinion that there's two camps of people in this industry that are my peers, right? There's dudes that think they are as cool as everybody thinks they are. And there's dudes that like rely on like their legacy, and it's a lot of mindset based stuff, and like it's a lot of emotional based stuff. And there's a whole nother group of dudes, right? Which are my boys, which like they're absolute rock stars at what they do, but they all think they suck.
They all think they suck.
And they all don't think they're as cool as everybody thinks they do.
Just had this conversation with Joe Dawson a few days ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, he's one of those guys. Like, and I don't think he'd be mad at me saying it. He'd just be like, he put it out there publicly. He's like, I still have imposter syndrome,
dude.
You know? And I'm like,
100%.
What, dude?
I'm always confused about like why do people pay me money, dude? I miss a lot,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I'll give you an idea of what I'm doing, but like, you know, just so you know, it's not perfect, you know. But it is weird, man, because like I come from a place where it's small town life, right? And it's small town, like everybody knows everybody, and nobody's really anybody on a nationally known kind of play. Like, it's just, and it's weird. It's like, what I didn't plan for this. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't anticipate this. And it's like, this is weird that it's happening, but dude, I'm so fortunate that it is. I get to meet some of the coolest people in the world. Like every day I go to work, I meet somebody and I think that dude's freaking cool, man. Like I'd like to be his neighbor. You know what I mean? And it's such a fun life, man. And I think it all comes from the foundation of all I want to do is love people well, man. And I'll tell you what I think, and hopefully I can change, you know, your shooting for the better. Hopefully I can give you some stuff to think about in your life a little bit for the better. And you know, rising tides rise all ships, man. I think I'm not going to sit at home and watch the degradation of the American male. Like, and so, you know, again, it's not lost on me. I can't save everybody, but damn it, I can save these 16 that are in this class potentially.
Yeah, I think that's a really great place to kind of wrap up, because that's what I got from you. And going back to that very first experience I had with you, with the very honest questions you were asking, and it wasn't even a debate. It was just like, let's have a conversation. And because the other dudes in that room or in that space were of the same mindset and coming at it from the same direction, I think, and are those kind of people, that those conversations were super, super productive. And while I got to have a few like on the porch with the bugs and the gators and the bass,
you got the whole experience,
the whole thing down there. The point of that is I spent more time just being a fly on the wall, listening to the conversations and taking away from the humans that were having those than and not that I didn't get a ton from what the instructional level was, but the real value came in the time that we spent
learning about the dudes.
Yeah, about the dudes. And I think if people maybe spent a little bit more time trying to do that rather than following the thing, they'd probably get a lot more out of this. But that's just my 2 cents. That said, man, listen, I am super honored that you joined me in the room. We got you at the table finally.
For being here. This is great.
It's been really good. I mean, like I said, we got to hang out for a little bit last week. I got to meet the family, which is super honored. It's amazing wife and kids.
I agree.
I hear about them all the time, and it was really great to finally shake hands. And I think I got a couple of hugs at the end of that thing. And so, you know, you spending time with me and just kind of sharing your heart, sharing your stuff. That's always the most valuable stuff for me. There's a lot of takeaways here. For some people, this will be way too much for them.
That's okay.
That's what I was about to say, and that's totally fine. But there's definitely folks that are listening out there, and particularly the types of people and the people that you were just kind of referencing there. Yeah. You know, that circle of people that'll be like, yeah, it's good that other people out there are talking about it. So however this reaches people and however it doesn't reach people, that's okay with me. I don't do this for likes and shares, you know, or whatever. It's really just like, if somebody's listening to this and they took something away from it, I'm good with that.
That's why we're doing it. That's fine. Right.
So thanks for thanks for spending the time with me. I think I owe you some dinner now. Yep. We should go out and put some fuel in the boiler. You didn't get that one when I texted you.
I don't understand that connection.
Strap on a feed bag. Is that more Southern? Or,
yeah, I get that. Get that. Get rid of some groceries.
Let's go strap on a feed bag, man.
All right.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate you.